No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
Okay, people, I think it's time we have an honest talk and an honest look at Netflix's live-action Cowboy Bebop series based off of the anime that was made in '98. Boy, oh boy, this series. Now, it was interesting because there was so many mixed reactions I myself even had leading up to the release of this thing. For starters, as soon as you hear live-action adaptation based off an anime or manga, you automatically have very, very little to no hopes at all for this thing to be even a molecule of something acceptable of an adaptation, just because historically live action adaptations 9 times out of 10 are bad. We have a small few like Pacific Rim or Rurouni Kenshin. Those live actions were okay, but they're few and far between, because amongst those then you get the Dragon Ball Evolutions, the Netflix Death Note that is just like, what are you doing here? Why do these things even exist to begin with? So you never really know where it's going to go. But as soon as I heard about Cowboy Bebop live action, I was like, oh, something for the bin, let's go, baby. And then as things started to approach and we started getting more materials, we seen who the actors were going to be, I was like, okay, John Cho, he's a little bit older to play Spike, but hey, it's a live action adaptation. I'm not expecting it to be a one-on-one. Maybe he'll work, and yeah, he did, but again, we'll get into it. So we saw that and I was like, oh, okay, you know, these are the actors. Then we got some promos here and there. I want to say like one of the first promos, a lot of people were, I think it was just like a promo image, people were not really digging it. Then we got some actual little small PV trailers and they looked really cool. We got the opening and we had, oh snap, Yoko Kanno's going to be returning to do the composition for the music, the composer, hells yeah. And we had a couple of small little teasers released prior to the actual show dropping, and I was on board. As I started seeing more and more, I was like, this could actually work. Daniela Pineda that plays Faye Valentine, she kind of looked adorable in the role, and you know, at the same time a little bit snarky. Then you have Mustafa Shakir who plays Jet. I was like, yo, this guy is doing the damn thing. And I was just already like, with better hopes than none. I'll say that. Like, I still expected it to be live action adaptation, but I was kind of excited. I was like, this could actually work. At the very least, it might be passable. It might be something to pass the time nonetheless. And when it dropped, I was there on the dot. I want to say it came out at 3 a.m. EST, 12 a.m. California time. You do whatever West Coast time, on November 19th, 2021. And I gotta say, wow, it was one hell of an experience, to say the least, for better or worse. I'm not gonna come in here and BS you guys. I get nothing from telling you guys, hey, it was the worst shit in the world. And I get nothing from telling you guys, hey, it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Other than my honest opinion, I get something to see you guys' feedback of whether or not you agree with me on this thing. Because also a little bit of a editor's note, I guess you would say. Cowboy Bebop, first of all, I haven't seen the anime in a real long time. It's been probably a decade plus since the last time I actually watched. Also, I was never like the guy that would say, oh my god, Cowboy Bebop's the greatest anime of all time. It was cool. You know, I used to see it back in the day. I want to say I've only watched it all the way through probably one whole time. That was about it. And I always thought, oh, Cowboy Bebop, dope show. Not the greatest thing in the world. I think it was overhyped, and a lot of it was due to the fact that it was one of the very small few more mature anime that was kind of catered to American and Western audiences. Because, in case you don't know, Cowboy Bebop in Japan wasn't all the success that it is over here in the West. It was just like a run-of-the-mill anime that was like, because it appealed more to a Western demographic to begin with. Like, the Westerners were like, yo, this shit is sick, Cowboy Bebop, let's go. But in Japan, they were like, So now that I gave you guys all of that backstory of my experience with Cowboy Bebop, everything leading up to this live action, the anime, yada, 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 how do I feel about the damn show itself? Well, I'll tell you, this review was going to be extremely different before I watched episode 10. I almost feel like this live action of Cowboy Bebop, I could compare it in a certain way. Relax before you start screaming at me. Let me finish my sentence. It almost feels like the Attack on Titan of live action adaptations for me. And what I mean by that is as follows, because it never reached even close to the highs that Attack on Titan reached, but it was all good until that last episode. For me, I loved it. I felt like this could be one of the best live action TV series adaptations. I was really enjoying it. I was like, holy cow, I might actually make a video saying I almost prefer the Cowboy Bebop live action, I know, blasphemy, to the anime. Blasphemy, I know. I almost was coming in here to make that video for you guys.
You didn't need to post that.
I was gonna be bold about it. I was gonna say better than the anime. Let's freaking go, because there was so many great things about this show. For starters, I accepted the cheesiness of it because there was a lot of cheesy things that they did, but it just worked so well, and that was mainly due to the core cast of the main three characters: Spike Spiegel, Faye Valentine, and Jet Black, because those three together was so freaking enjoyable to watch on screen. I felt like, you know, taking aside from what Cowboy Bebop actually is for a second, right? Because obviously it isn't Cowboy Bebop, right? There's a lot of differences and whatnot, but as a show, as a standalone show, and even a little bit above that, it worked just so well. I felt like I was watching this family of people with a whole lot of baggage and past that they're all kind of hiding from each other. Well, Faye doesn't even know her past, you know, obviously she doesn't have any of her memories or whatnot because she woke up from being cryogenically frozen and all her memories were wiped and all that jazz. So you just have these three people that they're a family with a whole lot of baggage that have come together. Jet felt like the father of this whole situation. Spike is the brother that, you know, a little bit older. He has his problems in the past that he's trying to keep away from the other two, but it just keeps spilling over because it's just so grandiose of a backstory and so grandiose of problems that he has. And then Faye, just adorable. Like, it was just such a great blend. I gotta commend the actors. If any of you are watching this, I want to tell you that you guys did a phenomenal job. Any criticism that I have against this show has nothing to do with the performance that you guys delivered. Daniela Pineda, you did mwah. John Cho, you did mwah. My favorite, Mustafa Shakir, mwah. You did phenomenal. You guys were excellent. You played the role to the best of your ability. You probably followed exactly the directions that the director gave you guys, and y'all really made the show. Like, if it wasn't for the chemistry that they had, and if it wasn't for the performances that they delivered, I probably wouldn't even have given a slither of a crap about any of this stuff. I wouldn't even have probably made the video because I would have just been like, this is so bad, oh my god. But their performances, them together on screen, and of course the source material backing it to make it actually like palatable, it was freaking awesome. I was just like, every episode, man, I can't wait to see what my crew is up to next. What's gonna happen next? From the moment that they get introduced to Faye, and it was a treat. I ain't gonna lie. There was some stuff before episode 10 that wasn't the greatest in the world. Like, I want to say it was episode 8, that battle against that assassin. I remember in the anime it was way better. So that one, it was a little too cheesy, and that was a moment that shouldn't have been as cheesy. So there's that. But ultimately, when you cut away from them, there was still other acts that were pretty enjoyable as well. Like the whole bar scene that you had those characters. Like, oh my god, I felt like the woman that was like in charge of the bar, she was almost like the oracle to me. I always felt like she had the wisdom, and she was protecting Spike this entire time and also trying to help Julia at the same time. Speaking of Julia, let's talk about some other stuff outside of the main core cast. Then we're gonna talk about episode 10, where I felt like it shit the bed. Don't worry, like, that's something that I have to talk about, and I'll give you guys a spoiler alert or whatever. But let's talk about some of the other side things. Julia was there. Like, for the most part throughout the show, she was there. It was a little bit of a subplot of, okay, you know what she's going through. Obviously Spike is longing for her. He had this history with her. It was all that jazz, but she was just there. And I felt like where the story took her at the very last few moments was just not where her character was written throughout the entire show, because Julia was like, oh, okay, you know, she's stuck in this loveless marriage to this man Vicious, and yeah, she really wants to be with Spike, but ultimately Vicious has her essentially by the proverbial balls. And it was like, okay, you know, that's the story for Julia. You see a little bit of the past of how she got with Vicious, yada yada yada, but her character at the end, which we'll get to episode 10 in a bit, ooh. And then probably the worst and the most miscasted, that I felt like he was like Lord Farquaad. Vicious, the guy that played Vicious, he wasn't cutting it, I ain't gonna lie. I think he was just a miscast. Shout out to him because he played the role to the best of his capabilities, the actor, but he just really wasn't it for me. Like, every time I saw Vicious on screen, I was like, oh, there's that little chuckle fuck, mate. How's it going, my lord? You shit the bed yet? Like, I never believed Vicious as far as being like this guy that, like, yo, he could really kick ass and whatnot. Then he had the inferiority complex from his father telling him, you're just like a little scared boy, right? Like, Vicious was one of the worst characters of this show. Like, he just didn't work. He was cheesy, too cheesy for the villain and the part that he was ultimately supposed to play. And I think to a certain degree, that's the way that they wanted it to be, because again, Vicious was told that he was only as competent as he could be next to Spike. Once Spike was removed from the picture, that's the Vicious that we were left with majority of the show. Which also I gotta commend episode 9, the backstory of what happened between Spike and Vicious. I love that as well. That was very interesting to see that, like, they were brothers, they had this camaraderie. Like, there was just so many good things going for this show. Honestly, before episode 10, I was gonna say this show could be a solid 7 to a 7.5 out of 10, which for an anime live action adaptation, a TV series with almost 10 episodes at that point, obviously before episode 10, yo, that's insane. This is probably going to go down as one of, if not the best live action adaptations of all time. Which again, it's not saying that it's like a 9 or a 10. It's just like, this is insane that it's actually pretty good. For me anyway, because I know there's a lot of people that they're too close to the source material to differentiate both of them. They love and they praise the original Cowboy Bebop anime so much that there's just no way they could possibly see anything live action. And it's a shame. A lot of critics were bashing this shit before it even came about, and I remember like the episodes had just dropped. It was like, 10 minutes passed and they were already, oh, this is the worst thing ever. Like, fuck you, okay? Give it an actual try. Like, I didn't like that because that this crew and cast, that's something that I can honestly say up until episode 10 anyway, that this crew, the cast, everybody involved gave it their best effort. And even episode 10, I'm sure they did, but yeah. And since I keep on alluding to this godforsaken episode 10, let's talk about it. Episode 10 really ruined the show for me in so many different ways. For starters, let's just talk about it. Julia, that shit was horrible what they did with her character. It was not foreshadowed. It was not built up. It definitely felt like, hey, let's make it so that she's a strong, independent woman and she's gonna, spoiler alert, you were warned, spoilers, 3, 2, 1, make some noise. Yeah, Julia shooting Spike through the window and tying up and putting essentially Vicious in imprisonment and saying, no, the throne is mine. It didn't work. It was horrible. It felt like, I don't know what the hell they were going for with this one. Especially like if you do want to compare it to the original Cowboy Bebop, it's like night and day. It's like godlike and shit here because it just wasn't there. Like Julia's character wasn't being built that direction. It almost felt like at the 11th hour, somebody came through that had nothing to do with the show and was like, oh, well, we're going in a different direction. We're doing a whole bunch of other new shit. We're gonna do a season 2 at some point. That last episode cannot coincide with everything that was built up to that episode because even though certain plot points allowed for certain things to happen, it still didn't feel right. Even the characters felt out of character. The way Jet was treating Spike, like, it did make sense and it was somewhat foreshadowed in terms of like, I'll never forget, Spike was like, oh, if he ever knew who I really was, he would, it would be a really bad situation. But it just felt like he was out of whack. And then the writing got sloppy to a certain point. Like Jet had that big argument with Faye, right? Like, nah, I'm turning him in. I need my daughter, which I'm gonna talk to you in a minute about how I felt about just Jet almost throughout the entirety of the show. But I need my daughter, so he, Faye walked away. He put John Cho in the trunk. He put Spike Spiegel in the trunk, and he was like, yo, I gotta do what I gotta do. And then plot twist, like, no, he actually colluded with him, and there was no hint in between, which I guess it was supposed to be a surprise, but there could have been some type of foreshadowing of him changing or a flashback after the fact of like, yeah, in between I stopped the car or something, but we didn't get anything there, and it just felt really sloppy. Like episode 10, I wish didn't exist because I really wanted to come in here and tell you guys, yo, the water is safe, fam. The water is safe, but I can't because the final episode really just shit the bed, man. Vicious all the way through was kind of just meh, and then how Vicious ends up just being chained in a basement somewhere by Julia, this newly written, poorly written character. I'm calling it right now too because they took some liberties and made some changes. Like Faye is into females, which I have no problem with that, but I feel like what they're gonna do, here's my crazy theory, I feel like somewhere in season 2, Faye, since she went off on her own to go find out about her past, at some given point they're going to pair her up with Julia. She might not even know who Julia is or her connection to Spike or whatever. I feel like we're gonna get a Faye x Julia in season 2, which was character wise, story wise, what the hell are you doing? Episode 10 was just, it was horrendous, honestly. From start to finish, it ruined the whole vibe. Like, if I loved the camaraderie, I loved the family aspect of it, I loved so many, that was what really drove the freaking show. And because they wanted to do a deconstruction of everything for episode 10, it was horrible. It was honestly horrible from start to finish. The writing, the characters, everything about episode 10 I really hated. And this has nothing to do with comparing it to the Cowboy Bebop anime. I want to make that very, very clear. That has nothing to do. It just genuinely betrayed everything that was established years prior to that, this family, and yeah, you could argue it's supposed to be a broken family because, you know, they found out about Spike's lies and Faye really wants to go find out about her past. She was putting finding out about her past over, hey, yo, Spike is kidnapped, bad shit is happening, and she's going to tell Jet about, like, yo, I just found out about my past, let's go. I'm like, what? So yeah, if you must know, I will tell you right now, the Cowboy Bebop live action, because I don't want to keep on prolonging this thought right here, the Cowboy Bebop live action is actually very passable up until the end. If you really just want to enjoy a Cowboy Bebop live action that is a little bit different than the source material, but still has a fun vibe to it, the music, oh god, the jazz music by Yoko Kanno, the original composer from the anime as well, did a phenomenal job. The cast, the camaraderie between the three of them, again, I can't stress enough how much of a phenomenal job. Jet, the guy that played Jet, I gotta stress, oh my god, Mustafa Shakir, you did so freaking well. You did so phenomenal, man. I gotta just, I hope you're watching this, man, because I want to tell you that you did incredible. I ain't gonna lie, you were my favorite character. The way you were written, you felt, you did great, man. Congrats to you for doing such an outstanding performance, all three of you, but in particular Jet. I could vibe with him on a personal level. It hit me being a single father, trying to, you know, deal with the baby mom, and then the whole backstory of what happened to him, how he got thrown out of the force, and it was just great, man. Like, there was so many things that if episode 10 didn't exist, I would have told you this is the best, or one of the best live action adaptations I felt personally in its own right of an anime into live action. But sadly, episode 10 exists, so I gotta put it in the, hey, you can enjoy it, just expect that the very last few moments it's going to be a shit show. And let's not even get into Ed. Oh god, I mean, it's the last couple of minutes that it's just like, oh, what, why? But yeah, that was, even not even just comparing it to the anime, but yeah, if you want to compare it to the anime, really bad. But just was like, what? So let me get this straight. It ends with Faye, the cool wacky character, going off on her own. It ends with Jet just there looking down and depressed, threatening to kill Spike if he ever sees him again. The father? Really? The father figure? Okay. And then Spike is just thrown in the middle of an alley and a little girl comes, hey, how's it going? Like, what is this? God, I wish they would do like a director's cut, re-edition, new edition. Episode 10 was a dream edition, some shit like that, because it was bad. By the way, also, another production thing to say, the wigs on some of these people looked horrible. What was up with the wigs? I get it, like you were going with full-on cheesy vibes to certain aspects, but the wigs looked really bad. But I also want to follow it up with commending the cinematography, because there was so many shots that I was like, oh god, this sideways camera angle looks really dope and interesting. I love seeing that. So props to the cinematography. Some of the action scenes were kind of cool. Some of them, people say, oh my god, they did too many cuts, it's not realistic. And at the end of the day, John Cho, he's not, you know, he's not Jackie Chan, you know what I'm saying? He can't do all the stunts the way Jackie Chan do. It's kind of like an artist, a hip-hop artist. He got to punch in, and it is what it is, but he still did a great job. So shout outs to the cast, shout outs to the amount of love that was put into this show, again, up until that end. Like, who was in charge of episode 10 and made these decisions to make Julia go this direction? Vicious, yeah, I don't know why Vicious throughout the whole show just, nah, he sucked. I ain't gonna lie, he sucked. But yeah, there was still a lot of love. I can't deny that. The music, the actors, the camaraderie, just so much there. So yeah, it's like a mixed bag. I don't really know what to say other than you might enjoy it. I think you will enjoy it. I can almost assure you that you will really have a decent time. That last episode though might ruin everything for you. And if you're one of those purists that know it's nothing like Cowboy Bebop, or it's not exactly like Cowboy Bebop, yeah, you're not gonna like it either. But I'm curious what you guys think. For people that have seen this show, if you never saw the Cowboy Bebop anime, how did you feel about it? If you have, comparing it or not comparing it, regardless, just that in the back of your mind of the original Bebop, how do you feel about it? Do you agree with me that for the most part it was a pretty damn awesome show up until the ending? And what do you think happened in the ending? If you was like me, that you really enjoyed it and then the ending just shit the bed for you, why do you think they went that direction? It just felt so like, oh god, was the sequel that necessary that you had to ruin? And even if it was necessary, why ruin it the way you did? Such a freaking missed opportunity, man. But I can also say that it's kind of dope to see that we're getting closer and closer to live actions that actually work. We're getting there. There's progress. This was not a shit show. This was not a project made out of nobody giving a shit. This was a project with a lot of love. Just at the end, they were like, I don't love you no more, bitch. Get out of here. Any overall thoughts and expectations for the future of this IP? Do you think we're going to be able to get a second season, or that ending just turned people off too much? I think we're going to get a second season, to be honest with you. And hopefully they clear some shit up and make it better, because but that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in. And for the final time, I want to commend John Cho, Spike Spiegel, Mustafa Shakir, Jet Black, Daniela Pineda, Faye Valentine. Y'all did mwah, chef's kiss. I love y'all performance. Y'all felt so good together. It was so awesome to see y'all together. Just, I don't know what happened at the end. I can't call it. Have an awesome one.